Hello, and welcome back to the Casual Leader Podcast, your weekly dose of real talk for people building real businesses and trying not to lose their sanity along the way. I'm your host, and today we're getting practical. 2 years ago, the hardest part of building software was writing the code, word by word, line by line. But with a tool like Claude Code, that is just not true anymore. You can get a working feature out in minutes, which sounds like the whole problem is solved, right? But is it though? The hard part of building software did not disappear when AI got decent. It just moved. Writing the code used to be the hard part, but now it's everything that happened before, such as planning, and after, such as reviewing. And most people are still working like it's the other way around. Like we're still in 2023. So, in this episode, I'll show you how I build with Claude Code end-to-end workflow using explore, plan, code, commit, review, and ship. Anthropic teaches the first four, and the last two I am adding because I think it's important to add, especially review. The data on that is genuinely a little alarming, and we're going to cover all of that. So let's get into it. Explore and plan. The first two steps, explore and plan, happen in something called plan mode. Is a setting where Claude can read your files and your project and look things up. At this point, it's just a research mode. You switch it on, you describe what you want, and Claude goes and reads the relevant parts of the project and does any kind of external research that your project needs. And then comes back with a plan, a list of what it intends to do and why, how, and so on. And here's the important part. You have to read that plan very carefully before even a single line of code exists. This is the cheapest place in the entire workflow and process to catch a wrong turn. Nothing has been built yet, so changing direction just costs you a sentence and a couple of tokens. Not an afternoon and half of your cloud subscription. And if the plan misses something, you just say so. If it's heading in the wrong way, you just redirect it slowly. You can even open up the plan and edit it yourself directly, should you wish so. Claude, like the rest of us, can't really read your mind. So you have to be explicit with details and context in what you want, what you expect, and what the end result should look like. So let me make this concrete with a small example. Say you want to add a dark mode toggle on a landing page. Nothing fancy, just a button that flips the side between light and dark. In the explore step, Claude reads your how the current project is built, how the current site is built, how the styling works, where the colors are defined, whether there is already a theme that's being related here that it can use. In the plan step, it comes back and says something like this. Here is where the toggle button should go. Here are the files that need to be changed. Here is how the project will remember the settings so it doesn't have to be reset every single time someone reloads the page. You read that, maybe you say, actually, I wanted to follow the system setting by default. And you adjust the plan. It's a couple of sentences. You see what I mean? It's all conversational. Then the code step. Once you approve the plan, Claude starts building. The code step is the back and forth between you and Claude until the feature actually works the way you want. Here is the genuinely good news. In 2026, this middle step is the easiest part. But easy is not the same as good. The one thing worth doing here is giving Claude a way to check its own work. This is the highest leverage habit that you can have. If Claude can run a test, compare a screenshot, or open a page in a browser, it can catch its own mistake before they even reach you. If it cannot, then you're kind of the only thing standing between a bug and your users. So, whatever you're building, give it something to check against. A test, an expected result, a screenshot of how it should look like. For anything visual, maybe the browser. One more practical tip here. Most projects using Claude Code keep a small note file, usually CLAUDE.md, that Claude reads at the start of every single session. If you notice Claude making the same mistake again and again, do not just keep correcting it in the moment, but ask Claude to write the fix into that CLAUDE.md file. Then it's going to stop repeating itself because the lesson is now permanent. At this step, skills are of tremendous help. But we're going to be covering skills with Claude Code in a whole separate episode. And as a caveat, I'm not getting into having the best practices, standards, everything embedded in your project because that's a whole other thing. Commit. Now for the rest of the workflow. 3 steps left: commit, review, ship. Commit is a simple one. It just means saving your finished work as a clean label checkpoint, a snapshot that you can return to later with a short description of what changed. Claude can write that for you in your own style, summarizing what changes did, however you want it. It's a small step and it's not where people go wrong. Where they go wrong is treating commit as the finish line, and it's not. You can just ask Claude to commit and push its latest changes and make sure that it describes them. But you still need a proper review, which takes us to the next step: review. This is the other step that carries a lot of weight. It's the second part that will make or break your project. It's right there up with planning. It's also the one that almost everyone skips. Not on purpose, but they skip it because they are moving fast, and fast kind of looks like the code is done. So there are two separate moments for review. The first is the local review. Before you push anything out, this is a fresh set of eyes looking over what you just built. And there are a few ways that you can actually do this. One, you can ask Claude to review the code as a separate reviewer, a fresh instance with no attachment to the code because it did not write it. That detachment is the whole point. A reviewer that did not write a line of code reviews it better than the one that did. The second part, you can also run a focused security pass, which looks specifically for things like exposed passwords, obvious vulnerabilities, and then offers to fix them. You can just run /security review, and you can have a complete security review and recommended fixes. The third way is, if you want, you can also use specific skills for code reviews. Anthropic has its own, and you can find them in skills.sh marketplace, but you can also have others too that are very specific for front end or back end or for your specific framework. And if you want more in depth reviews, you can actually use agents from a marketplace such as ours, that is agenthq.sh. And you can actually look at the security levels as well. So you can freely and clearly install an agent that you know it's safe and can help you out. I'll link everything that you see here down below. Now, the second moment is the review that happens after you send your work out to other people to see. On a lot of the teams, the moment the code goes up for a review, an automated review reruns on it and leaves comments in context on exact lines that look a little bit off or risky. You can also use /review if you want to review a pull request the second you're done. Now, here is why this step matters so much. The data on skipping the review step is striking, and it is recent. Two engineering-focused companies, Pharos AI and Linear B, both published large studies this year on what AI coding is doing to teams. Pharos AI looked at 2 years of real activity data from 22,000 developers. Linear B looked at 8.1 million pull requests across 4,800 teams. These are companies that have access to data directly through their tools, so it's in their interest to find a problem worth measuring. Keep that in mind. But the two studies were done separately, and they both point to the exact same thing. On the speed side, the news is good. As AI adoption went up, Pharos AI found that the number of features completed per developer rose about 66%. More just gets shipped, and that's real. But on the review side, Pharos AI found that the time code spends in review went up 441%. The rate of production incidents per change more than tripled. And 31% more code is now being merged with no review at all. This is also a lot of code being thrown away and rewritten. The rate of that went up over 800%. And one likely reason is that the code just got built before anyone was clear on what it should be built in the first place. Which, by the way, is exactly what planning actually prevents. Linear B's data points the same way. Code written with AI assistants waits over 4 times longer to get reviewed than code written by a person. And when it finally does get reviewed, it gets approved far less often, roughly a third of our time against 8 in 10 for human written code. Put those two together and you get a real picture. Writing code got dramatically faster. Reviewing and checking it did not. The bottleneck did not disappear, it just moved. It moved from writing the code to making sure the code is any good. This is why review is a crucial part of the workflow, not an optional one. The part that feels skippable because the code looks good and you're kind of in a hurry is the part that the data says it's now carrying the most cost. And to be clear, this is not an argument that the AI agents should do all the reviewing and that you should disappear. It's actually the opposite. The review agent is your first reviewer, the first set of eyes. It catches the boring, kind of dangerous things every time without really getting tired. What it frees up is your attention for the things only a person should be deciding. Whether this is the right design, whether the product passes the architecture review and the security checks, whether the trade off is worth it. You still own what goes out. You just stop spending your best hours hunting for missing semicolons and typing syntax. Now, I completely get that reviewing fatigue is very much real. And normally in our human review processes, there's a reason why no more than 100 lines of code commit rule is there. But things change, and we have to change and adapt our review processes with it. To quote Bill Staples from GitLab in one of the most recent blog posts, the way they see the future is pretty much the same way that we do. Software will be built by machines, but directed by people. And the last step, finally, the last step in the workflow, ship. I'll skip here all the references for testing in a sandbox environment and all the extra steps that you normally have. Let's assume that you went through all of the standard processes and now you shipped into production. When your work gets released into the world, it earns its own place in the workflow because it is the only step with real world consequences. Everything before it, it's kind of behind the scenes and still reversible. Shipping is the point where a mistake stops being an internal problem and becomes a user's problem and potentially your company's problem, your on-call team problem, and the bottom line type of problem. So it is not a formality. It is the moment that all the work in the two crucial steps, planning and reviewing, either pays off or it doesn't. And then you start again. Next feature, back to explore, back to planning. That's the whole Claude Code workflow to get the best result out of it. One honest caveat here, this workflow has a cost. Planning takes a few minutes. Reviewing takes a few more. And every single step costs a few tokens. The rule of thumb is simple. If you can describe the change in one sentence, just ask for it. Fixing a typo, renaming something, adding one line, that's completely fine. That does not need a whole plan and a review pass that will cost a bunch of tokens. The two-step earn their keep when the change actually touches several files, when the approach is not straightforward, when you're working on a bigger feature, or when you are working in a code base that you don't really know yet. That is when a few minutes up front and a few minutes at the end will save you a bunch of headaches and an afternoon in between. Use it where it actually pays off. Key takeaways. Here are three things to take with you. If you don't take anything else from this episode, take these three. One, planning is the cheapest place to be wrong. Plan mode lets Claude research and propose fixes before it builds anything. And reading that plan costs you a couple of minutes and a few tokens. Fixing a wrong build costs you an afternoon and a lot from your Claude subscription. Two, Claude needs a way to check its own work, or you become the only safety net and a single point of failure if you're not working in a team. Give it a test scenario, acceptance criteria, a screenshot, access to a browser, whatever it needs. This single habit removes more frustration than anything else. 3. Anthropic teaches this workflow as 4 steps: explore, plan, code, commit. The honest version is 6 because review and ship are real steps, not afterthoughts. Review is the one step that most people skip, and the data this year says that it's the one that carries the most cost. Writing code got faster, checking it and review it did not. Do not skip the review. Okay, that's a wrap. If you found this useful, share it with someone who maybe is using Claude Code but skipping the plan mode altogether or struggling with it. And if you give this workflow a swirl this week, tell me how did you find it? And if you're using it already, what did you find to work a bit more differently or effective? I want to hear how we can improve and whether you're struggling so we can help each other. As usual, Thanks for spending the time with me, and let me know in the comments below whether you loved or hated this episode because we're here for both. And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out any of the upcoming episodes. We have tons of interesting subjects coming up, and don't forget to join our community at thecasualleader.com for workshop calls, OKR support, accountability check-ins, AI updates, and more. Until next time, keep being you authentically, lead clearly, build smarter, and remember, everything starts with you. Start casual, keep going, keep growing. See you next week. Bye.